What's going on, family? Team. We got a little different setting today because I'm preparing for a football game this afternoon. So decided to make our video lesson for today in the athletics office. So give you guys a little bit of change of scenery. So yesterday we learned a little bit about why the colonists began to feel that anger, that tension, that resentment towards Great Britain. Okay, we learned a lot of it had to do with taxes. Remember, the taxes were not benefiting the colonists, but rather the taxes were benefiting Great Britain because Great Britain felt that the colonies should pay them back for all the money that they put into fighting the French and Indian War. Okay, we learned about the Boston Massacre. Okay, what's up, Coach P? So, making a video for tomorrow, just getting done. So today, okay, oh yeah, we learned about the Boston Massacre. First time there was a violent conflict between the colonists and Great Britain. 5 people were killed. Okay, Crispus Attucks, remember, was the first colonist to pass away during the conflict between the colonies and Great Britain. And today we'll go ahead and jump into day 5 of the American Revolution. This will be the last day in regards to the causes of the war. And then starting tomorrow, we'll start talking about the actual war itself. So, hey, without further ado, let's jump in. Okay. All right. So causes, day 1, or I'm sorry, part 1, causes. So let's do this. Let me move this up for us so that it doesn't get in the way. All right. Didn't get a chance to do quote of the day, so I'm just going to give you an easy one. Do your best and be a good person. That will help you out tremendously in life. So, hey, let's jump into the Committee of Correspondence, okay? So what this was after the Boston Massacre, after the colonists were realizing that they were being taxed without proper representation. Okay, remember, they were not being represented in the government. They felt that consent of the governed was how a government should run itself. What that means is the government is there to benefit the people, not to benefit the government itself, or not to grow the nation, but rather it's all about taking care of the other people that are being led by that government. So when the colonists started realizing that they were being treated unfairly, they created the Committee of Correspondence. And the main purpose, the main goal of the Committee of Correspondence was to inform the other colonists, okay, or to spread the message about the mistreatment that the colonies were receiving under Great Britain. Okay, one of the most notable events that they talked about was the Boston Massacre. Okay, they tried to leverage that to get support for of what was soon to be the American Revolution. Okay, so Mercy Otis Warren was a very famous writer that wrote a lot of propaganda against the British. Okay, remember, propaganda, that is posters, pamphlets, articles, call it what you will, trying to portray a belief or trying to portray a message. So the propaganda during this time was trying to inform the colonists that they were being mistreated. Okay, they were trying to get support for what was to become the American Revolution. Okay, so this propaganda was used to kind of shift their thinking, and hey, maybe Great Britain really isn't treating us that fairly, because hey, look at what this poster's saying. It's saying that they killed 5 people in Boston. Or hey, it's saying that we're not properly represented in government. Like, hey, I want to be represented, right? So Mercy Otis Warren was a very famous writer. And then Miss Abigail Adams, okay, the wife of John Adams, okay, you'll learn about him a little bit later, also wrote for the Patriots cause and for women's rights. Okay, so patriots were those individuals who were in support of the fight against Great Britain. Okay, they were the first soldiers for the colonies. Okay, the patriots were the ones who were the first foot soldiers for the colonies during the Revolutionary War. Okay, so she wrote about their cause, okay, what they were doing, why it was good. And she also wrote a lot about women's rights, because back then, women were not treated as fairly as they are today. It was definitely a different time. So let's jump into the questions. Boom. That's propaganda right there. You see that poster? Look, that's a bunch of British soldiers shooting at the colonists. Okay, that's propaganda. That's trying to show people a different way of thinking and trying to help them believe a different way to get their support. Okay, who wrote many articles for the Committee of Correspondence in order to persuade, that's a great word actually, persuade people to support the fight against Great Britain. That's a great word to use in regards to propaganda. You're trying to persuade someone to think a certain way or believe a certain way so they support what you're trying to do. So if you said Mercy Otis Warren, you were correct. And why was the Committee of Correspondence created? Okay, remember, it was created to inform the colonies about the mistreatment that Great Britain was giving. Another coach coming in. Come on in, come on in. Making today's video for tomorrow. You're meeting Coach Price and Coach Kelly today, everybody. All right, the Boston Tea Party. This was kind of the final straw that led to the Revolutionary War. Okay, in 1773, they wanted to protest, right? Move this so you guys can read it. They wanted to protest the Tea Act, okay, which was a huge tax that they were levying on the tea in order to pay for all the war debts. So Sam Adams and the Sons of Liberty, remember we learned about them a little bit before, they dumped over millions of dollars worth of British tea into the Boston Harbor. So millions of dollars back then would be so much more money today. So that was an enormous amount of money in 1773. And this was a form of civil disobedience, okay? You see, it's a form of protest that is done peacefully. No one got hurt, okay? They weren't fighting anybody. They were just simply protesting the fact that the Tea Act was unfair because, hey, back then, as you know, they loved to drink their tea. So this was a form of civil disobedience or peaceful protest. Hurts nobody. All it's trying to do is make a statement of the mistreatment and the unfair treatment that the colonists were receiving from Great Britain. And as you can imagine, King George III, okay, the King of England at the time, or the King of Great Britain at the time, was furious and passed what is known as the Intolerable Acts, which closed Boston Harbor until the colonists paid back the money for the tea. Now remember, back then in the New England colonies, the way they earned money and the way they profited and the way they built their economy was off shipping, building ships, and trade. So if they closed the harbor, they were no longer able to trade. So the economy of the New England colonies started to crumble, okay? And the king also forced the colonists to house or quarter British redcoats. So that was known as the Quartering Acts. Okay, so bottom line, here's a little example I always give to students in class. We live by Fort Hood, right? So under the Quartering Acts, any soldier from Fort Hood would be able to come to your house, knock on the door, and you would be required not only to give him a bed, but you would be required to feed him. Okay, and most often, these British soldiers mistreated the colonists whose houses they were staying at. They disrespected them, they treated their house incorrectly, and they really abused the people that were living in that house. So it was the Boston Tea Party, the Intolerable Acts, and the Quartering Acts was kind of the final straw that led to the colonists declaring or committing to the fight against Great Britain, which was the Revolutionary War, which we'll start learning about the war itself starting tomorrow. Okay. So why did the colonists throw British tea into Boston Harbor? Okay, again, this was known as the Boston Tea Party, and Sam Adams and the Sons of Liberty threw all the tea into the harbor because they felt that the Tea Act was unfair because the colonists had no vote for the act. The colonists not only, and remember, the taxes were not benefiting the colonies, they were benefiting Great Britain. And lastly, what law did King George III pass in response to the Boston Tea Party? Okay, if you said the Intolerable Acts and then shortly thereafter the Quartering Acts, you were 100% right. Good job. All right. So that's that for today. Hey, report cards come out this week. Make sure you check your grades going to Skyward. If you're missing anything, please reach out to me, communicate with me. We'll put a plan together, bring that grade up, and make sure you do the class activity for today. It's going to be a grade, and we'll have 2 more grades this week that are going to go into the report card, and then we will be done with the first 6 weeks and hope to see some of you in person starting the second 6 weeks. So again, get all your work done, keep working hard, do your best, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.